Copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than never. The would-be judges, the 144,000. All right. The tabernacle of David, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, that 144,000 who will enforce the laws of earth on earth, or the laws of heaven on earth as it is in heaven, as it is written. Heaven will be here on earth with the Israelites ruling over all other nations, all other people. There will be no more governments, only the government of Israel, which everyone will serve. Right? And to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations who have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing, as Esau, Edom, and certain Israelites have tried to make it. All right. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another brutal lesson in truth. And here what we have, this is a video that the elder apostle Ramlam sent me. And like the scripture says, you got to know your personnel. And I remember this video, seeing bits and pieces of it. This video is about, I think it was posted up on the internet on YouTube about 12 years ago. And so it's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't think I ever saw it in its entirety. But I'm going to play about 4 or 5 minutes of it just to show you that this is what, this is actual history. This isn't theory. All right. And Esau, Edom, starting with their president on down. All right. Want to try to erase the brutality of his wickedness. But it's already recorded in heaven. All right. As a matter of fact, let me grab a scripture before I even start it. This is Ezekiel 35:5, and it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time when their iniquity was at an end. See, therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So Esau, Edom, is about to get back double according to the scriptures of what he gave out. And he created a system that still runs on hatred, on the oppression of the Israelites. Started mainly with the southern kingdoms, so-called black people. But it extends to the rest of Israel. All right, the so-called brown people. We're all under the, in a system that operates under Edomite supremacy, or what you would call white superiority. All right. And it's within the government, it's within the schools, it's within the job place, it's within the movies. And now they're just outwardly trying to remove the viciousness of their cruelty from history, and and remove slavery and make slavery sound like it wasn't that bad, and that they did you a favor. This is literally what they're trying to do. So without any further ado, let's play a portion of this video of the Jim Crow Museum.
In cartoons, in movies, in books, and in real life, of blacks being the victims of pain and the victims of aggression, and also the perpetuators. What seeds does that plant? What we try to do in the entire museum is to re-emphasize that the pieces in here are caricatures. They are not real people. It's a distortion. It's a lie.
I wish I was in the land of cotton, old times there, I'm not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland.
Right, which was a very racist song. You hear this on a lot of ice cream trucks. All right, and you know, to this day, they still play this on ice cream trucks and drive through Negro Latino neighborhoods, because that's another thing that they downplay is while this slavery was going on, the Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos and Native Americans were also being put into slavery. Many of the Northern Kingdom, many of the so-called natives of the Americas were reclassified as Negroes. And as the slave ships were bringing Jake to these horrific conditions, those same slave ships were returning not empty, but full of so-called natives, Hispanics, you know, as they're called today, and taking them over to Seville, Spain. Seville, Spain became the reverse slave capital of the world. That's just a tidbit, extra information.
In Dixieland, where I was born in earth.
Many people who come to the Jim Crow Museum have little or no knowledge of Jim Crow. So we began the experience inside the museum with a display about Jim Crow, the character, and then we move into Jim Crow when it becomes a synonym for racial segregation. This wall here is a blown up version of an 1832 sheet music, which was called Jim Crow. You have here the silhouette form of Thomas Rice, one of the early blackface performers in the U.S. who put blackface makeup on, got on stage, and pretended to be a black character. He did not create blackface stage performances, but what he did do was to make the Jim Crow persona popular in the United States and across the world.
And he's going to explain how devastating it was. And remember, he said blackface. So let's go to the receipt. All right, let's go to that word black. Okay, remember, I've told you many a time that when you put black before anything, you make it negative. All right, like black people. All right, and that's why the Jim Crow character was very unattractive and physically black when people aren't really black, they're brown. All right, so here's I got this from Murph some time ago, but it says black. Okay, adjective, opposite of white, dirty, messy, without light, dark, illegal, dim. Okay, sombre, disastrous, dismal, obscure, sullen, bad-tempered, angry, horrible, grotesque, malignant, unlucky, unhappy, depressed. So when they call you black, they're calling you depressed people. All right, unhappy people, unlucky people, grotesque people, horrible people, angry people, sullen people. All right, that's what they're calling you when they call you black, and then you accept it. When white, you know, it says the adjective, color of milk, fresh, snow, innocent, unstained, pure, unblemished, bright, anti-revolution, auspicious, reliable, favorable, honorable, honest, upright, without bloodshed, free from guilt. Ooh, man, this is the most dangerous, most bloodiest, most murderous, most heathenous, colonizing people that the earth has ever seen, full of blood and not free of guilt. That made me think of a scripture before we go further. This is Zephaniah, or not Zephaniah, but Zechariah 11:5. And it reads, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. All right, so they sold us and made themselves rich. And then after the Negroes were so-called freed, they were emancipated. There's a difference between being freed and emancipated. You need to look that word up. Their suffering really started. It was even worse after slavery, because during slavery, you know, it was horrible, but you had value. After slavery, they did whatever they wanted to you, without fear of judgment from the law. Okay, you couldn't even bring up charges against the so-called white man. So they could rape, rob, murder, steal, and do whatever they want to our people, and they did.
This section of the museum actually has two of the ways we think of Jim Crow. One, Jim Crow as a blackface form of entertainment. Minstrel shows both shaped and reflected attitudes toward African Americans. Imagine if you were a white American, you didn't know a lot of African Americans, and the only depictions or portrayals of African Americans that you saw were from the minstrel stage. There you would find, dressed in blackface, white Americans pretending to be African Americans, and then later, African Americans darkening their skins, pretending to be even darker African Americans.
To make money. And they would actually use shoe polish. They even made bands who are already brown. You watch that, you can watch that in the movie Babylon. It's a really good movie about the birth of Hollywood and that wickedness. All right. Which Hollywood couldn't have. It was Judah and Issachar that made Hollywood what it is today. Without them, Hollywood never would have. So it is nothing that Esau Edom has that Jake didn't make great. All right, you have to watch the movie, and then you will clearly see and understand what my statement. But they even made one of the band, which it was the music behind Hollywood, especially in the silent era age, which is mostly Jake's playing that music for those silent movies. When they would be seen live performing it for the people who saw the stuff, who were invited to the studios, etc., they made the bands perform in blackface. All right, when they have their club openings and things like that, when they would perform for the Edomites, they made the bands perform in blackface. It was either that or you didn't get paid. So that this wicked, horrific image was all that some so-called white people knew, including those who didn't live in cities or areas where they ever saw black people. When they saw TV, radio, cartoons, whatever, postcards and images, this is what they saw. They didn't see someone that was human, so it was easy for them to hate a person that they've never seen, met, or ever done anything to them.
Acting as buffoons and idiots and the like, those shows became central to the creation, the legitimization, the spread of the ideas and beliefs that African Americans were inferior others.
When the man said, "Would you give me a situation, you'd have to put me through a simple self-examination."
No, stupid. You mean a civil service examination.
Ooh-wee. Yeah.
You have to put me through a...
And look at that extremely unattractive woman. And this Edomite in blackface pretending to be a Negro, as if we walked around talking like that. And look at the band member in the back. All right? Yeah. This is Obadiah 1 and 10, which is the name of the video that I'm going to play next. That was put up by Hopefully Elect. All right? But this is Obadiah 1 and 10. And it says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever." To see this history is shameful unto Esau Edom. He's embarrassed now. And he's being called out. And the funny thing is that at this time, and for damn near a century after this time, they were very proud of this. Oh, they were proud of the hanging and bragged about ruling over you and conquering you. And conquering the natives, conquering the niggas, making slaves out of you forced niggas. That's what they call Native Americans. All right? Yeah, that was one of the terms that they used for them, forced niggas. They were proud about taking your land, taking Texas from you, taking the whole West Coast, which was all Mexico, by the way. California, Nevada, Colorado, Texas, that was all Mexico. Mexican Indians who are indigenous to this land, by the way. All right? The only illegals are these two unattractive Edomites you see on the screen. The one in blackface and that very unattractive loudmouth woman.
Slavery in America was not some abstract sin we can tidy up with footnotes and cartoons. It was a daily terror, a system built on the breaking of human beings until they were stripped of name, lineage, and hope. To be enslaved was to live every waking moment under the threat of violence so casual it was indistinguishable from the weather. A whip split your back for moving too slowly. A lash fell for daring to look a man in the eye. A child was sold away from his mother as easily as a mule, and the screams that followed were drowned out by the auctioneer's call for bids. There is no softening this. There is no clever spin that makes bondage preferable. It was a theft of life day after day for generations. Enslaved men and women were forced into fields before dawn, bending their bodies until their backs were warped, until their hands bled and toughened into knots of scar tissue. They harvested cotton in the heat of Mississippi summers, and rice and swamps and tobacco that clung to their lungs like poison. They were denied shoes and medicine, denied even their own names, whipped for praying, whipped for speaking their mother tongue, whipped for showing the smallest flicker of resistance in their eyes. The women endured an additional hell. They were prey in their own cabins, subject to the whims of these masters. Rape was not an aberration, but an institution, a weapon used to produce more property children born already enslaved. Their fate sealed at birth. Husbands stood powerless. Wives endured silently or fought and suffered worse. Daughters learned too soon that they had no protection. Every intimacy was violated. Every relationship was shadowed by the knowledge that it could be destroyed in an instant by a sales slip or an owner's desire. And yet still they carved out humanity where none was allowed. They sang spirituals in fields and carried codes for escape. They wove African rhythms into new songs that would one day give birth to the blues and gospel and jazz. They whispered stories at night to their children so that memory could outlive the overseer's lash. And they built resistance in the quiet and sometimes in fire and flight, reminding the world that no chain can fully hold the human spirit. There is no pain in this world like the scream of a mother watching her child carried off to the auction block. If you can imagine it, the sun beating down on the courthouse square, men in waistcoats laughing and tallying their bids, and in the middle of it all, a child pulled from the arms that bore them. Small hands reaching, a voice breaking, his mother collapsing as strangers drag away her baby. That child will never see her face again. He will be raised by those who see him as nothing more than labor and profit and property, and she will wake every morning for the rest of her life, still aching for the child she can no longer feed, her soul clawing at a void that can never be filled. And this was not rare. This was not an accident. This was the machinery of American slavery. Families were currency. Husbands were sold away from wives. Children sold away from both. Brothers and sisters scattered to the winds, and the ones left behind were forced to keep working in the fields while their hearts broke in silence. The masters called it business, but the enslaved called it hell. And when someone smugly says that slavery was better than being killed, ask them to answer this: would you tell a mother that her child's sale was preferable to death? Would you look into the eyes of a father who watched his daughter dragged off into the arms of a leering master and say, at least she's alive? What kind of life is that? What kind of man calls that survival? And death is final, but it is honest. And slavery was a slow-motion death, a tearing apart of families, of dignity, of soul, spread out over decades. It was the theft of generations. To say that such a fate was somehow a mercy is to speak with the voice of a slaver, not a free man. But we are not numb. So remember the ships where black bodies lay chained in darkness, unable to move, suffocating in the stench of their own survival. Remember the branding irons pressed to flesh, the iron collars that cut into throats, and the runaway notices nailed to courthouse doors as though men and women were livestock. Remember lynching staged as town carnivals, postcards of black men hanging from trees passed around like trophies. Remember Tulsa and Rosewood and Elaine, Arkansas, and the burning of futures that dared to bloom. This is the inheritance of slavery, and no cartoon will ever wash it clean.
Man, you can add rock and roll and country music to that list of contributions that came from the so-called African Americans, from the slaves who are Israelites. Your washing machine, air conditioning, engines, stoplights, the third rail, the elevator, the elevated train. So many modern things that you use every day: the hairbrush, the comb, the hot comb. Thousands upon thousands of things that made life easy in modern life came from them. And there will be a recompense. All right. This is Habakkuk. And the fact that they're trying to erase it shows that shame is upon them. The scripture has come to pass. They're trying to cover up what they once bragged and were proud about. This is Habakkuk 2:16. Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing upon thy glory. Right? So it's shameful spewing upon your American glory, on your American Holocaust, your continual genocide, colonization, and rape. Look what you're doing to the Palestinians right now. All right? There's no difference between the small hats in America. The small hats rule America. And Americans know that now. Edomites know it. They're saying it because it's true. This is Galatians 6 and 7. These are scriptures I learned long ago. All right. And every time I read this scripture, I think about the elder Apostle Gabar, because that's who I first learned it from. This is Galatians 6 and 7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You're going to reap what you sowed. You're going to get back. Because guess what? when the 144,000 I talked about in the beginning of this video, the tabernacle of David that will be enforcing the laws of heaven here on earth under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely called JC. All right, that recompense is coming. All right. And they're going to make sure it happens. The day has come where it's a bad thing to be an Edomite, a so-called white man. It's here. It's here. And and they're going to spill some more blood and do their thing before they meet their final demise. But their time is very short. This is Colossians 3:25. And it reads, He that doeth wrong shall receive for the wrong which he have done. And there is no respect of person. There is no way out of what is about to happen to you Edomites, you so-called white people. Exodus 21:16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand. See, we're all still here in America, also got birth certificates, social security numbers. We're still in their hands. He shall surely be put to death. Death is coming for you Edomites. And it's coming from on high. You're going to watch your country crumble. Your stolen lands crumble. You're watching your power dwindle. You're watching your women turn on you and go to the heathen nations mainly, and to Jacob. All right. Probably 1 million Edomite women around the world right now that are impregnated by so-called black men. All right. And Esau, you are the minority, not only here in America, but in the world. And that's why your back is on the fence and you're doing the wickedness that you're doing. But it's to no avail. All right, with that, I want to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Quadash, Kwam, Yasarala, Abad Babal.